Peterson infamously said that he would rather die than delete the tweet.
And got suspended from Twitter today.
Suspended?
Suspended from Twitter for some sort of a post.
You own all of Twitter or Facebook or what have you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't even have to be transparent. You could secretly ban one party's candidate or all of its candidates. Or you could just secretly turn down the reach of their stuff and turn up the reach of something else.
That's what they did during the election. Turn things down, turn other things up.
Message to Parag Agrawal, CEO of Twitter. Dear Mr. Agrawal, I wrote this when it was literally 2 a.m. during my recent visit to beautiful Samos, Greece, where I was on business attending to my efforts on the educational front. I woke up suddenly from my slumbers with you and your company on my mind in my jet-lagged state, unable to drowse further, and so I sat there writing instead of sleeping, which the more cautious and sensible part of me wished devoutly I was able to do instead. A few weeks ago, the wise folks at Twitter deemed it necessary to suspend my access to that platform, despite the fact that I had several million followers, despite the fact that I had used the platform in good faith, despite the fact that I had put in the years of time and effort necessary to gain such an extensive following, despite the fact, as well, that I was a genuine force on Twitter, trending with a rather appalling and frightening degree of regularity. In many ways, I'm your monster, sir. The reason for the suspension? It's not exactly clear, because very little is exactly clear, Mr. Agrawal, with regard to your social media network, apart from the fact that you allow an awful lot of misbehavior. What with the appalling proliferation of anonymous and near-demonic trolls and bots, and professional manipulation of the public space by actors such as the Russian and Chinese governments, and the proclivity of your own people to censor only those voices they don't agree with politically. The tweet that brought about my suspension was one directed, for better or worse, at the actress/actor Ellen, now Elliot Page, who I criticized, along with his or her physician, for publicly trumpeting and publicizing the decision to have her perfectly functional breasts removed in the attempt to switch sexes, which decision was up to him or her, and appropriately I at least half suppose, but which also served as a much publicized, more than 1.5 million Instagram likes, model for confused adolescents who might be considering, in their juvenile confusion, walking down the same direly and irreversibly damaging road. I don't think for a moment that it was even the criticism per se that resulted in my ban, but my use of Ellen's original name, a practice which the exceptionally active, yet exceptionally tiny and noisy and endlessly troublesome trans activist so-called community has decided to term dead naming, and which has in consequence become, by their anarchic and presumptuous fiat, the modern equivalent of a mortal sin. But I don't know, do I? Because your idiot policies of arbitrary exclusion are unbelievably and appallingly ill-defined. Thus, I'm not granted the opportunity to face my accuser or accusers. Is there just one? Are there many? Who are they exactly? Are they inside or outside of Twitter? Why have they been granted this decision-making power? And I continue not to know, even though I followed your equally ill-defined and parameterized appeal process with regard to this censorious and judgmental action, undertaken in the shadowy background of your equally shadowy company, as I have yet to hear anything at all from the powers that be at Twitter on that appeal front. But I know absolutely that you know personally of my suspension Peter Zatko, your former security lead, has painted, in the words of that same Time magazine, quote, a damning portrait of a company in crisis. In an 84-page complaint to federal regulatory agencies and the Department of Justice, which was first reported by the Washington Post and CNN, and which Time obtained from a congressional source, he describes Twitter as crippled by rudderless and dishonest leadership, beset by egregious privacy and security flaws, tainted by foreign influence, a danger to national security, and susceptible even to total collapse.